Imam Husayn gave an azim sacrifice. Azim sacrifice. Sometimes I tell you, there are those who read Masaib for a very long time. There are those, like the Rashid Turabis of the world, his Masaib maybe were 3-4 minutes. But sometimes he would just have one sentence and the hearts would break, and that would be the Masaib. We know al-Asghar was the youngest, the smallest. But you understand that he was the last of the Shuhada, which meant what? Not only was he the youngest or the smallest, he was also the thirstiest of the Shuhada. Oh, that's it. That's all you need to hear. Think about the day. Think about when water stopped. And think about when Imam Husayn took him to the Maidan of Karbala. The smallest mujahid and the thirstiest mujahid. Allahu Akbar. Shab Ashur. Shab Ashur. Imam Husayn is going tent to tent to tent. In one tent now he hears the sound of a woman crying to herself. Looks inside and sees that Rabab is sitting there crying. Beside her a 4-year-old Sakina, beside her a 6-month-old al-Asghar. Rabab, why do you cry? She says, Mawla, look at the sentence of Rabab. Aqa, Mawla, this was her husband. Everybody else has someone to sacrifice. All I have is a 4-year-old and a 6-month-old. Meaning even Rabab wouldn't understand the idea that a 6-month-old al-Asghar could take shahada on this plains of Karbala. And I can argue that Rabab, your sacrifice is the highest. You left your 4-year-old in the Shah, in the prison of Sham, and you left your al-Asghar buried in the plains of Karbala. That same Rabab, during the days of Arba'een, the Qafla has come back now to do their ziyarat of the Shuhada of Karbala. For 3 days they were there in Arba'een. They cried for their Shuhada. Rabab never left the side of her husband's grave. When it was time to go, and again the Qafla was ready, Zainab says, Rabab, it's time to go back to Medina now. It's time to go back to Medina now. Imagine now her thoughts that when I left Medina, and now I'm going back to Medina. Almost as if looking at Zainab and saying, who do I go back to in Medina? Who's waiting for me in Medina? The Ashab have given their life. The Bani Hashim now have given their life. Imam Husayn, Imam Sajjad, and a 6-month-old Mujahid al-Asghar. When Imam Husayn calls, Hal min Nasrin yansuruna, is there anyone to heed my call, to help me in my call? Or the better transition, anyone to help us in our call? It's at that moment that he hears Rabab from the tents. al-Asghar is restless inside of his jula, his swing. Mawla, he's thirsty. Can you go and give him some water? Get him some water from somewhere. Imam Husayn takes al-Asghar in his arms, wraps him up and makes his way in front of the enemy. And I'm sorry for making this comparison. I apologize to all of you and to Imam al-Zamana. But the state and the halat of al-Asghar when he entered the Maidan of Karbala was not a usual state of a 6-month-old who's thirsty or hungry. And the example given by many ulama is that when you take a fish out of water, when that fish is now out of water, that fish goes through various stages. At first now it thinks, I'll get water right away. I'll get water right away. So what does it do? It goes from its stomach to its back, from its back to its stomach. When after a while it realizes that maybe water won't come right away. It stops doing that. Its tail goes left and right, left and right. When there's a dying hope for a drop of water, a dying hope for a drop of water, that fish is still. All you see is the fish and its mouth open and close, open and close. Husayn brings al-Asghar out. His mouth is open. If you are my enemy, if you don't want to see me get water, what has my 6-month-old done to you? Look at him, he's dying of thirst. If you think that I'll drink the water, you come and give him water yourself. This one mujahid, the smallest, the tiniest, the youngest, the thirstiest mujahid, enters the Maidan of Karbala and does one thing that not Abbas did, not Ali Akbar did, not Qasim did. He broke the camp of the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad into pieces. Grown men with black hearts, burying their face in their hands, crying and weeping. Umar ibn Sa'ad sees this. Now all of a sudden he says, Hurmala! Quench the boy's thirst. When Muhtar Thaqafi arrested Hurmala, put him on trial. Hurmala, you were there on the plains of Ashura, on the plains of Karbala, on the day of Ashura. Yes, I was. You were the main archer. Yes, I was. Tell me the role you played on the day of Ashura. He says, Muhtar, I myself shot 7 arrows on the day of Ashura. 4 of them hit the target, 3 missed the target. Tell me, Hurmala, about the 4 arrows. Shabi Ashur, your hearts want to cry. He says, the first arrow that I hit was that arrow that struck the eye of Abu Fazl Abbas. You know, one thing I did not recite on the Masaib of Abu Fazl Abbas, and there's a reason for it, but I'll recite it tonight with your permission, is that one thing that I didn't mention to you that night was how did that arrow of Abbas get out of his eye? This man did not have arms. One small hair gets inside your eye and you're washing your eye out. This man had an arrow in his eye and not one arm. How did he get the arrow out? He tried to wiggle his head to make the arrow drop. It wouldn't drop. He did everything he could to make the head drop. But my Mawla Abu Fazl Abbas took his knees and grabbed the arrow and pulled the arrow out. Shed your tears. Shed your tears for Husayn. Shabi Ashur. Don't hold back on your tears. The first arrow I shot, Hurmala, was Abu Fazl's eye. Tell me about the second arrow, Hurmala. The second arrow I shot was the son of Imam Mujtaba, 11-year-old Abdullah ibn Hassan. Asr Ashur. Everybody was around Husayn. When this nephew of Husayn realized that nobody was there to help his uncle, he came running out of the khayma. I saw this young man, this young boy, 11 years old, 11 years old, running towards helping his uncle. I was told to get rid of the boy. I shot an arrow. He died in the spot. What about the third arrow, Hurmala? Mukhtar, that arrow is the one I dipped in poison, and I shot at the chest of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn on Asr Ashur. When Bibi Zainab until Zainabiyah, 40 or 70 feet away from the maqam of Imam Husayn Shahadat, says until Zainabiyah, I couldn't see my brother. There were too many of the enemies around him. All I saw were his legs moving left and right, uncontrollably. That movement was from my arrow. Hurmala, tell me about the last arrow. He says, Mukhtar, Umar ibn Sa'ad says, quench the 6-month-old thirst. I took a 3-prong arrow that I use on massive animals, and I shot it with such fierceness, it entered one side of al-Asghar's neck and came out the other. I saw al-Asghar being pinned to Husayn's arm. Husayn takes the blood of al-Asghar. The sky rejects it. The ground rejects it. What does Husayn do? He took his 6-month-old for water, brought him back lifeless. Walks towards the khayma. A rabab is waiting for al-Asghar. My mother's in the audience. Infant children at home. Husayn now, for the first time perhaps, second or third time, shows I'm also a father. I'm a human being. I have a heart. He walked towards the khayma and stops. Walks back and stops. How do I tell the mother of a 6-month-old? I went for water, it came back like this. Husayn didn't have the dam to tell Rabab that your al-Asghar is no more. But what he didn't know was that Rabab was standing at the khayma watching the entire thing. Rabab comes out. Husayn draws out his zulfiqar. I don't know how he did it. He dug up a small grave. Do you ever wonder, my last sentence, do you ever wonder how Husayn buried al-Asghar? There had to have been a moment where he had to put the dirt back on al-Asghar. How do you do that? You look down on the grave, you start to push the dirt back on to the point where he gets buried and buried and buried to the point where the face of al-Asghar is no more. Matem ya Husayn, ya Husayn.